Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hey Nonprofits Raise More Money. I'm Trevor Nelson, and we are presented by HGA Fundraising. HGAfundraising.com is where you can find some really cool resources for raising money at your next event or anything that has to do with raising money for your organization. Today, I am joined by the Chief Creative and founder of SkyBlue Creative, Pat Taggart. He's a friend of HGA, and he specializes in telling stories with video. And there's some awesome insights that were impactful to me actually in this conversation and will certainly be impactful for you and how you're sharing your mission, your organization, and the work that you're doing. Gosh, it was just really good. So sit back, enjoy. Thanks so much for joining us and tuning into another episode. Enjoy this episode with our friend, Pat Taggart. You work with businesses is what I saw, right, in that little dossier that was sent over to me. But are you focused entirely on working with nonprofits, or is that what you do at all? Or kind of give me some feedback there.
No, it's both. So I work for profit and nonprofit, and really
Perfect.
My job doesn't change a whole lot.
No, totally. There's still businesses. Yeah, you know that our focus. You haven't had to do any research about us at all as a prerequisite, but we only work with nonprofits.
Correct. No, I know. I did my research. No worries.
Okay, cool. Far out, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we've been open 6 months. No.
Who's
We've
counting?
been telling the story, man, for 6 months, and it's been going really good. So we got that startup mentality. So you're getting in early. So
right on.
It's cool, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah, that was one of the questions because we talk a lot, nonprofits. Recently, a subject of conversation has been, okay, you need a CRM because, you're a nonprofit, you're still a company. 501c3 is just a tax designation. You still have payroll, this, that, and the other thing. And, most, annual budgets for nonprofits is, right around, I'm just throwing numbers out, but right around $250,000. Average number of employees, just under 3. You don't have to break the bank to have really good video telling your story, giving your mission's message, getting your mission's message out there. Because that was an eye opener to me. Of course, it's like most people think that like I mentioned, I'm drawing parallels here, but like CRM, super expensive. We don't need it. We'll keep using Excel and our notepads. And they were like, no. There's some really low cost, options out there. And then like, oh, we can't do professional video highlighting the fundraising we did at our gala event because it's so expensive for an AV team and things like that. So yeah, let's get into that, Pat. I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course, man. Thank you so much for having me. And I love the work that you do. I think helping nonprofits is super important. And for us, we do work both for profit companies and nonprofit, but the really gratifying work is the stuff we get to do for nonprofits because I think all of us want to spend our time doing work that we feel like is going to make an impact. Mm-hmm. Here's the secret about yeah, for sure. Here's the dirty secret about telling your story and about video in general.
Okay.
The story already exists, and that's a beautiful thing. And here's where these things go sideways. You hire a production company, and they come in and they want to meet with your marketing team, and God forbid there's lawyers involved, and we're trying to write up these scripts, and then you wind up with a video that feels so stiff and so disingenuous, and you're looking at it and you're like, man, that's not us, right? All you had to do was put the people in front of the camera that are creating that story every day and just ask them about it. It's that simple. And so the truth is, the less prep you do, the better the content's going to be, in my experience. And that's about 22 years now, I believe. Okay,
cool. Is that when you started SkyBlue?
Yeah, man. So, I started a wedding video business right out of college because I was a reporter for like 4 months, like a sports reporter. And that was not right for me. And I was clearly not right for that. And so as a 22-year-old guy, I had to ask myself 2 really important questions. Number 1, do I want to move around to small markets and try to make it in this industry? And number 2, am I good enough to ultimately get to where I'd be satisfied with that career? And it was no and no. Right. And so I'm like, well, I have $5,000 in the bank. I want to spend my money on video equipment. How do I justify it to my parents that I still live with? Hey, I'm going to make wedding videos. And they're like, for who? And I was like, I don't know. We'll figure it out. We got that business rolling. And then I thought, well, I can't work during the week. Like nobody's getting married on a Tuesday. And so I started making what is essentially still referred to as corporate videos. I hate that term, but I went out and I'd meet with these really engaging people. And this is either for profit or nonprofit. And we'd put them in front of the camera And then all of a sudden, these people who were so engaging would just completely fall apart. And so I'd walk out and I'd say, oh my goodness, like I have to figure this out or I'm going to be out of work. And Trevor, it really came down to two things. We said, number one, let's ditch these scripts because these scripts are taking the life out of these people.
Right.
And number two, stop making them stare into the lens of a camera. And that's when we started to do almost all of our work documentary style, where they can sit across from me and just have a conversation. And yeah, cameras are rolling, but that lens does terrifying things to people. And so no scripts and no more direct eye contact, that really went a long way.
Gotcha. That's awesome. You said a couple things. You said, yeah, you don't like corporate video. I totally understand where you're coming from, especially with how much storytelling via video and branding and marketing, all synonymous terms, right, has progressed in the 22 years since you've been in the space. But you said something about dirty little secret, which I thought was interesting. Like I consume like a lot of Gary V content, or I have over the years and stuff like that. And so you said dirty little secret. It's like you can tell the story with, you know, your cell phone or the camera angle over here or whatnot. Just tell the story and ditch the script and things like that. What I think of when you say the dirty little secret is that you have it all right there in front of you is there's fear and trepidation that human beings have, especially in the nonprofit space. I guess I can speak for us too in the for-profit space. You know, that just getting in front of the camera is a huge leap for some people. You know what I mean? So,
you know what's crazy about that too is that you're willing to take that same face and that same voice in front of crowds, in front of meetings. You'll take any client meeting or donor meeting, but you won't take that same face and same voice in front of a camera where one's live and one's not. Yeah. And so we can shoot video 10 times. Only one's going to see the light of day, the one we really like. Yeah. And my biggest piece of advice to people that are hesitant.
How do you help people get over that? Yeah.
Well, it's not for you. Like you're not creating the content for yourself. So don't watch it. Right. Like if you're not creating video and putting it out in the world, you're holding your organization back. So just like I used to work quite a bit with an entrepreneur who never watched anything we ever created for him. Oh. Johnny Depp very famously doesn't watch his content, or at least he says he doesn't. Right. And so it's not for you. And so you need to create it or else you're just holding yourself back.
Wow. It's almost, that's an interesting, I hate this term gets overused. I shouldn't say hate. That's an interesting paradigm shift when you think about it like that, when you're actually, it's like, this isn't, I'm giving this away. There's so many different ways that you could can that and put a moniker on that. It's like, we say we give our best information away for free. So it really truly isn't for us. It almost seems like there's probably like some, like there's layers. Cause I've gone through my own personal journey there where it's like, there's insecurity, definitely some fear, clammy hands. There's some vanity. You know what I mean? Like
for certain,
all this stuff. It's so funny, man. It's like, what was it? I love interpersonal. Like I love the podcast medium. I love that stuff. I think it's great. I love speaking with groups and just talking to people in general. I'm very loquacious, but you put me in front of a crowd, public speaking, and I am terrified, like trembling. Terrified.
You are.
Yes, I am. It's very.
You know what's wild? I've filmed with people that have been in front of thousands of people and are completely comfortable. But if they're in a private room with a camera pointed at them, they melt as humans.
Isn't it weird how we're all built so differently like that?
It makes no sense. You know, I've heard more people talk about the way they sound on video than the way they look as a barrier, and they hear their voice. And I found something on YouTube, and it's a part of. I do a bit of speaking. It's part of my live presentations now, where I show this clip. And it's this guy in a tank top on YouTube that's explaining that, you know, there's science behind it. So we're so used to throughout our lives hearing our own voice, but we hear it through a completely different process than the way the rest of the world hears our voice. So we grew up hearing this bassier form of our voice because we're hearing it internally. Yes. That's not our voice. And so the one that's foreign, right? That's just the one that everybody else is used to. So when you're like, I hate my voice, everybody else is just like, well, that's your voice. We're used to that. That's what we hear.
Yeah.
Wild,
awesome.
Man. Yeah.
That is true. That is actually really true when you think about it. Yeah. Cause it's our own auditory functionality, right? The way, you know, our ear, nose, and throat works, you know what I mean? Type thing. Yeah.
Yeah. There's big words for it, Trevor. I'm not going to try to, I'm not even going to try. I think it's something about bone conduction. No, I don't know if I remember them. It's like bone conduction and something else. Look, I'm a communication major, right? I make videos for a living. You don't need to be getting into the medical terms.
No, I love it. But that is real. Those things do exist. I totally understand. I think it's awesome.
There's a very small percentage of people on the planet that do have like Patrick Mahomes' voice. It's a little strange. Sounds like Kermit the Frog. A little bit. He says that himself. Not making fun. Not making fun. No, I think he's doing fine. Don't worry about him. He's doing fine.
No. Yeah. Ends are meeting well for that man.
Mike Tyson had like, awesome. Obviously for obvious reasons, Mike Tyson's voice. But like for most of us, Bailey, you and I and Trevor and 99.999% of the people in the world, our voice is just our voice. And nobody thinks twice about it except for us.
I think that's what ends up happening more than anything, right? We just get caught up in between our own ears. And I think that's what we're getting back to that point about just the trepidation, getting over the hump. I call it like, taking the plunge to start telling your story about your mission and your organization, your brand, and marketing that way through video. Yeah, whatever we can do to nudge folks. We were I'll tell you a little bit about our experience, Pat, was, we were very enthusiastic when we started. We're providing really cool items for folks to use in their live auction, silent auction, to raise money with. And I didn't know a ton about fundraising. I just was like very, very enthralled with the space. I knew that we could help. I knew there was a place for us. And what was interesting, I was just having this conversation with Bailey this morning, was we adopted video very, very, very early and made that investment, a big, big, sizable investment in adopting video and having video tell the story for the item that we were offering nonprofits, so they could use it during their live auction on the big projector screen, or they could use it on Facebook to get folks inspired to bid when they came to the event. And we might still be some of the only people in our space that do it. And we literally have clients. Now, I was doing this in 2016, 17, 18, compiling all these videos and trying to tell our story, just the camera in front of me on Instagram and stuff like that. And we literally have clients that say they will only work with us because we offer the video. And I was like, man, I guess I'm giving away some information to our competitors, but it's like, geez, it seemed pretty obvious to me. And I'm not a genius for thinking that was the greatest way to tell the story of the product. But talk to me about this, because, brand and marketing and all these things in video, unless I'm completely off base, is probably the best way that folks can tell their story these days and have it be consumed and digested the way we want. Correct? I know you're probably biased about this.
I'm so biased. So biased. But I still think behind every decision, there's still a person. And so regardless of what you do, whether you're asking for money or you're selling a product, people buy from people.
Good call.
And what people want, they don't want to be manipulated. They don't want to hear you regurgitate something that sounds completely empty. They just want to find out who you are. And a big piece of it, Trevor, is how you're different.
Okay.
And so people have found you most likely because they're looking for or want to support what you do. They want to know how you're different than everybody else is doing that. There's huge. Differentiation is huge. And so too much people spend time talking about their space and what they do. Well, a lot of people do that. How are you different? And to the extent that you can tell that story in a way that's authentic, and also too many people are afraid to be vulnerable. Yeah. You get to a certain point and all you want to talk about is your accolades. We're the largest this, or we've helped this many people.
That's a default. Yeah,
it is. And you should be really proud of that. It's never going to be as interesting as where you came from. Wow. Because at our hearts, we all want to root for an underdog. It's the same reason why every year in the Super Bowl, nobody was rooting for the Patriots except for Patriots fans, right? Because we love an underdog story. And so that's a little piece of magic that people can tap into, whether you're a huge nonprofit or a small nonprofit. Talk about where it came from, because it had to take a leap of faith to say, I'm going to do this. And then there were definitely people in your life that thought you were crazy. And there were moments where you thought you were crazy. And there were 6 times that it should have failed and it didn't. What are those strokes of luck or those smart decisions that you made to keep pushing through and get people on your side from an emotional standpoint and make them want to hitch their wagon to you and say, I love this story. I can identify with this. I just found out the story of Fred Smith from FedEx last year, that he wrote basically the thesis of FedEx in college, and everybody told him he was crazy. And then he started FedEx anyway, and they were down to their last $5,000 and couldn't make payroll. And so he went to Vegas and put it on roulette and hit. And it's the only reason they could make payroll. I've driven by FedEx and UPS equidistant to my house. For me, it was just whichever one I was passing by. I've actually found myself going to FedEx more because I love stories so much and I can relate to that story. I'm like, cool, man, they were pirates at one point, right? Like they were on that pirate ship just trying to figure it out. And that's the power of story. And we lose that sometimes.
I love that reminder, the origin story and where you come from. I was talking, I'm not afraid to admit it. So I was talking to our team, and everyone, it seemed like, unless someone was lying, we just went over and over and over and over. And every single person, because we do it on Zoom, it just seemed like they were succeeding and they were excelling. And I had written down before, I wrote down my thoughts, because we share two things. We call it the two happies, a personal and a professional happy, or what's,
love that.
It's really, really cool. It's been, my partner, Jason, came up with it. It's been so impactful for us. It was told to me in real time, the story about our organization and the growth and all these things. And it's been awesome. And we came from nothing, like a one-man shop type thing,
Of course.
And I wrote down my two happies a couple of days before. It was really, really interesting, just like how I kind of could sense that was happening, that everyone was very, we're making this move and it's very good for us. And oh my gosh, I'm close to my mom now, so I can celebrate her birthday because I've got this job with HGA and I have that flexibility. And oh my gosh, so I wrote down, it's like, I get the sense that things are going really, really good with our team. We've had even health, massive health issues with cancer and stuff with employees that are healthy now. And it's like, it just was something that was in me. And I shared mine last, and I started weeping when I was just talking to them about how I could just sense that everyone was excelling and succeeding, and they had their families and things were good. And it was huge. It was so big for me, at least. You know what I mean?
That's the real stuff.
I don't know what my point is.
No, you don't have to have one, other than that people are impacted by the real, right? By the visceral, by impact. And, just to trace it back all the way to where we started, you don't get that from scripted content, right? The biggest mistake you could ever make is telling someone how they feel.
Oh God, it's worst, right? It's the worst.
People know how they feel. Just ask them. That's all you have to do.
Well, I want to come on your podcast if you start one, because this is fun.
This is how we learn, though. I mean, you learn from talking to people that I've been exposed to so many industries, Trevor, that industries I don't even know exist. And so we'll go
like
in
ours.
We'll go in and tell stories for industries that we didn't know existed otherwise. And that's how you learn, and that's how you connect. And ultimately, man, if we can all help each other a little bit, I don't want to get all kumbaya on you, but every problem on the planet is typically a who problem. And so the more we grow our networks, if we ever get faced with a problem, and we all will, chances are, these connections that you make are the way you can typically to ease those issues.
I started writing down the journey of this company, piggybacking on that point. I wrote down 4 rules, and my 4th rule was about just business and the coalescence, like business and your professional success and life in general. Relationships are your superpower, and it's not what you know, it's who you know and how well you know
100%.
them. Yeah, and that just seems to be such a common theme.
Yeah, my mentor told me the way he would phrase it, same deal. He'd say, we're all in the relationship business. Makes no difference what industry you're in, what position you're in the relationship business. And oh, by the way, you also do this thing.
Yeah, I think it's lovely. And I still want to weave this all into what we're talking about and getting, talking about our own personal experience and stuff. Once again, how impactful it can be for nonprofits to take the leap and to consider it, of course, to tell their story, to continue, if they're already doing it, to continue to do it, and don't put the phone down, don't put the camera down, all those things. I want to encourage folks to continue to think in this way, because it really is, once again, I'm biased, you're biased, the best way that we could tell this story. I'm still a believer in the handwritten note and stuff like that, but that's more of a gratitude thing. Yeah. And telling what the mission's up to. Kind of off the beaten path question for you,
please,
Pat. So I have a theory that because we're so indexed with video these days and imagery, Instagram world now and YouTube and all of these things, and how we consume all of this information, you can tell it's coming, at us in video format, and how the world is working right now. If it wasn't working that way and it was just the printer press, then we'd be talking about something else. But that's where the attention is. I have a theory that people can smell, and I'm not going to swear, but people can smell BS better than they ever have before. Am I completely off base in thinking this? Is it because we become so well trained that we can smell inauthenticity? I don't know why. Maybe it's just me and my filter. I can just really, really tell when someone's not being genuine. Is that common, or am I being an outlier in that assumption?
You're dead on, and that's one of the greatest gifts that social media has given us. So there's a lot of things that I don't love about social media, but I don't spend hours on TikTok. But one thing I will say is that people have become so accustomed to watching unscripted, genuine content on those platforms that when they see stuff that is BS, that is manipulative, it sticks out like a sore thumb, man.
Wow. Yeah. It's so real, man. It's so, I mean, because how did it start? It started with like the weird emails. Like, 'cause you're big on LinkedIn. I like LinkedIn too. I should spend more time on. I've really spent a lot of time, an uncomfortable amount of time on LinkedIn in the past, just growing the company. Cause I was a believer, man. You know what I mean? In it. And of course I want you to tell folks where they can find you there and all that good stuff too. But yeah, it just seems like it started with like, not spam emails, but just emails where you're just like, gosh, that's how you're going to talk to me. I don't even know you, you know, me saying that people can smell BS better than they ever have before. And people just being folks that want to give, that support your mission or want to work with your company or your organization or anything therein. I just think that it's so obvious now that, yeah, that filter has just been, you know, it's grown in such a crazy, you know, enigmatic way almost. I was like, wow, people talk really poorly about how the state of the world right now and news and all these things. But I'm telling you what, people can sniff out, you know what, really, really easily these days. It's wild. Yeah.
We are educated and experienced consumers of media more than any other period in history of the world, for sure. You know, we're inundated with it every day. Hey, I had a story I wanted to share. I think it could be really beneficial to your audience. And when you think about creating content as a nonprofit, this one always resonates for me. I was doing work for a for-profit company that had kind of a nonprofit initiative. And essentially what it was they had a hardship fund for employees. This is a public company called Stericycle, where every pay period, employees can contribute as little as $1 to a fund, where if somebody in the company had something catastrophic happen, like a house fire, apply for a hardship grant. Wonderful program. Cool program, right? Great program. Spearheaded by HR, and we had a culture team. Well, there wasn't that much adoption. So great program. Not a lot of people are participating. Why? Because they knew it existed, but they couldn't feel it. And so there's a big difference between knowing something's there and feeling the impact of something. All we did was found 2 people that were recipients of hardship grants and said, would you mind if we capture your story? And HR was really concerned about that. They're like, oh, it's supposed to be confidential. Like, I don't want them to feel like they're, being manipulated or used. And the argument was, just ask them. Like, if they say no, there's no obligation. And what they said was, are you kidding me? This was a lifeline when we needed it most. We would love to tell our story. So all we did was put these people in front of the camera for about 10 minutes apiece, put together a short video, sent it out. Participation increased about 300% over the next 3 days in this program. Why? Because people could feel it. And so anybody out there that is doing wonderful work and you're saying, why isn't this getting traction? Don't question what you're doing. Question how you're sharing the impact of what you're doing. And the real impact and the power and the magic is in the people that you're helping, not in what you can say yourself.
Oh, man. That's so good. That's so good. I was going to ask you to tie a bow on what nonprofits could do right away.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Most of the stuff they can do themselves. I mean, we come in and do kind of like the big pieces, right? Like the evergreen pieces, the identity piece that's going to be on the website. So much of this can be done, like your daily sharing and lessons, all that stuff you can do yourself. The cell phone is better than a $10,000 camera that I bought less than 10 years ago and is now defunct on my shelf. Like, don't ever say that you don't have the equipment. Cell phones are unbelievable. You just have to start doing it.
True story. Start doing. Gosh, I love that too. You just got to
do it, man.
Yeah, I love it.
Hit record and see what happens.
Oh, I love it. Pat, love that. Tell folks where they can find you on LinkedIn, and then tell folks where they can find SkyBlue as well, please.
Yeah, of course. The site is very simple. SkyBlue Creative, exactly how it sounds.com. I respond freakishly fast for whatever reason. I should probably detach a little more than I do. And then Pat Taggart on LinkedIn. I love to go on there and contribute and have conversations with folks. So that's how you can find me.
Well, I'm looking forward to doing that on LinkedIn with you more. And it's Taggart, Taggart. Everybody, show him some love on LinkedIn. That was fascinating, and I want to do it again. So
would love
really,
to.
Really good.
I got to start my own so I can have you on. You inspired me.
I think, well, I don't think it's a bad idea. I started this one in particular in my dining room about 160 episodes ago or something like that.
I saw that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm getting chops, so.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you love our podcast, click the download button, rate us, and follow us on social media at HGA Fundraising. Get out there, start fundraising, and raise more money. See you next time.